couple of our participants here, Graham Finn and Nicole Neubauer, are talking about food waste, and you said that 1 to 2% gain in food production is necessary. What's your view of how much food is wasted in the world, especially in developed countries, and how we might approach that in terms of that's consumers being lazy, I suspect, or consumers having too much money, or I'm not sure what it is. Just give us your comments on food waste for these two keeners that are writing in the chat box here.
Food waste reminds me very much of the other problem we just discussed when we talked about, essentially food security. You've got to break that problem down to understand it. And so in your developed world, boy, there's a lot of food waste, and that food never gets to the marketplace to get wasted in the first place. It's a small percentage of the food actually makes it to the market. So much of it is rotting in the fields and the transport, and it's of no value when it gets to somewhere. It's diseased, etc. So they have a huge food waste problem that is killing them. And those are things that could all be dealt with essentially by with capital investment, with the investment in infrastructure and plants. And that is beginning to happen, but that's the biggest piece of it. The second biggest, as you're referring to, is in the developed world, particularly in North America. And that's the waste that occurs, from essentially supermarket through consumer. In some cases, actually, to some degree, it can occur in the distribution system itself. But the big piece is, in the consumer side. And I think, besides, it's kind of shaking our finger at consumers and things like that, I think the big thing to do is to ask ourselves, so let's assume we aren't able to train everybody to be better cooks and make sure they clean out their fridge regularly. I think that's kind of barking up the wrong tree, frankly. I think the big issue is we should never think of anything that's going in the green box as food waste. That's somebody's input to other types of business. And you've got, I'm sure, people on the call that could tell you all kinds of things you could do with that. But that's input to somebody else's business in terms of upcycling it. And particularly, God help you if you're worried about meat being wasted like that, because right now, a friend of mine in the meat business that makes the oils out of it, his biggest problem is competing with the people that want the stuff for biodiesel, and he can't get enough. He runs a food. He runs a food business out of the good cuts that come out of a plant when they have fat left over and stuff like that. He can't get enough of it anymore because he can't pay as much for the food use for the lard and the tallow as the biodiesel people can for burning it. So be careful what you define as waste, and because that's somebody's input you're talking about that needs that. It's all types of fats and calories that are energy in some other form.